Well, hello, hello, hello. All right, I'm going to get us all set up and ready to go. Okay. I hope everybody is excited. It's been a while since I've done a Facebook Live, so let's get going. All right. So today we're talking about getting past your to-do list, being more effective, and going beyond the to-do list. And a lot of times there's some chaos, some crazy, some, whatever around to-do lists. Some people are like, oh no, I don't like to-do lists. I don't like checklists. Why should I do a checklist? I know what I'm doing. All these crazy thoughts, right? My husband was telling me how somebody said, well, I don't understand, if a pilot knows how to fly the airplane, then why do they need a checklist to make sure that they're doing everything right? They just don't know their job. And this was from somebody who said that they were a pilot, right? And I'm just like, you what? I don't know about you, but sometimes, I just get going and I'm like, oh, I remember this, and I'll just go through my little steps. But if I'm going to do something accurately, I want to look at my checklist. I have checklists on, how to create an invoice, and I have checklists on, doing my payroll systems, and, I have checklists on hiring people, believe it or not, right? And not because I don't know the system, not because I don't know the process, it's because I want to make sure that I'm being effective. And I don't know about you all, but I'm human. Maybe I got a few aliens on here. I don't know. But but as a human being, sometimes I have emotions, I have chaos. People interrupt me in the middle of my day. And when that happens, I want to make sure that I go back to where I need to be. So hopefully those of you who are joining today, me, I'm Kimberly Borgens. I do these little, Facebook lives to just create some wisdom highlights, is what I call it, right? Is I say every bit of this gray hair was earned. All right, there's one lesson for every head of every hair on my head, right? And because there's a lot of wisdom that I've learned throughout 30 plus years in business. And my whole purpose of this is to just share with you, a little bit of information to help you move forward in business. And so today I'm talking about, to-do list, checklist, what's the psychology of it, how to design an effective checklist for you, how to implement a checklist, to-do lists, whatever for you, what works. And I've been in rooms with people, I've spoken, and people, they just don't like that much structure. They don't want to be held down to corporate ways. They don't want to, checklists don't work for me. Well, it's because you're trying somebody else's checklist, right? You got to find what works for you, because if it doesn't work for you, you're not going to use it. I mean, really, that's the bottom line. And that goes without saying for so many things in our life, right? But you're doing things on a regular basis that you don't even realize. You get up in the morning, you change your clothes, you brush your teeth, you take your vitamins, you have your breakfast, right? You have routines, right? But they're not to-dos, are they? I always say a to-do list is really just a routine. A checklist is to make sure that the routine is done efficiently, right? So notice the two. So I said I was going to talk a little bit about the psychology of it. So let me kind of just share with you some of the psychologies around to-do list, checklists, both of those. Is one, the benefit, the psychological benefits of doing a to-do list or a checklist is really to reduce anxiety, trying to remember, oh my gosh, what do I need to do, right? Like, how do you remember everything with so much chaos going on, right? Oh, you got stuck in a rabbit hole down in the social media, right? Then you come back out and you're like, oh, where was I? Checklist helps, right? Having that checklist in place for yourself. So it can reduce anxiety. It also provides structure. I'm not saying everybody has to be structured like me, but find the structure that works for you, right? There's people who are like, Kimberly, I can't believe all the little checklists you have. And I'm like, me neither. but this is what works for me. So what works for you? I don't care if it's 3 things on your checklist every day. I don't care if it's, you know, 3 goals, for your month, like whatever works for you to create the results that you want to make sure that you create. So provide some structure for yourself. There's a structure around your house or it wouldn't be standing. So structure isn't a bad thing. There's a structure around the car that creates everything staying in one place. So when you're going down the road, it's not all falling off, right? There's structure in it. So don't be afraid of having structure. All right. And psychologically, it's a good thing for you. Okay. The other psychology behind it, it says that when we have something on a checklist, for example, or on a to-do list, and we check it off, right? We mark it off. What it does is there's proof that you've achieved something. So my lady friends, here's what I know. So many will say, I've gone all day, I didn't get anywhere. I didn't get anything done. But if you did something different, then just maybe you would realize how much more you get done. If you had a checklist, you could follow it. And at the end of the day, you would have the proof that you did achieve something, right? Because so many times I hear from women, yeah, I worked all day, but it doesn't feel like anything got done. Well, I have something that's called instead of the to-do list, we have the to-done list. For some people, it's when they complete something, then they write that something down. And they write that down because then they have proof that they did something, right? Ta-da! I got it done. So I call it ta-done. So, maybe for you, that's the kind of checklist you need. Like, this is what I got done today. This is what else I got done today. This I got done today. I got this done. I talked to 5 people on the phone. I completed this paperwork. I submitted this application. I, did this talk. I called this person back, and got X amount of dollars in sales, right? So you could be doing a to-done list and it would help to create some of the same results psychologically that a to-do list does. So whatever works for you, you have to make sure that it does work for you, right? Because you want proof that you achieved something. And if you're working for somebody else, it's another way to prove I've done X, Y, and Z. Like, what have you accomplished today? You get put on the spot and it's like deer in headlights, right? Well, here, hold on. Let me pull out my little ta-da list, right? My ta-da. So, that's another benefit to that. Psychologically, it creates organization and prioritization. That word just didn't want to come out, but it creates those things for you as well, right? And then the other thing, physiologically, what happens is you get a buzz, right? Buzz. It's a Hive Society. I have to use that. So you get a little bit of a buzz, and really what it is dopamine is released when you check things off, because I checked it off. I feel accomplished. Dopamine's released. You get that little buzz of joy that goes through your system and you move forward. So not only psychologically are there some huge benefits, reduction of anxiety, creates a structure, proof that you've gotten some things done, creates organization and prioritization. So psychologically that's done. Physiologically, now you're also getting dopamine release. Well, dopamine release is really beneficial to us. Especially during this time where everybody, they're talking about mental health crisis and people are more depressed now. Well, one of the things is because they're not taking a look at everything that they've accomplished. They're noticing instead, oh, I spent X amount of hours on social media. Oh, I didn't get these things done. Oh, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. Well, how about this is what happened? I got this done. This is what I created. Those create dopamine releases. So those are some huge benefits to creating to-do lists or checklists for you and your business. So there's all different kinds of checklists out there. And the checklist, if you're going to design an effective checklist, for example, right, you got to design it to be effective for you. I can give you my checklist. I can give you my to-do list, but you're not going to follow them because they're designed for me. So what is it that you need to design for you? Look, it doesn't have to be hard. Okay. Look, Google all the time. If you go to Microsoft Word, there's templates. so get a template of somebody else that started. I might look for a template and throw it in here later, but just get a template that you can start with, and then you make it to fit you. What is the checklist, right? I have computer software, and I will be the first one to tell you, I am not a computer geek. Okay. I do not enjoy working in software. Okay. I don't code. I leave that to the experts, but I have to work in my software all the time, and I have to learn how to use that. And there's so many different pieces to the software that I use on a regular daily basis that I have these checklists, like these are the steps to go in and do this. If I'm going to, like I said earlier, if I'm going to create an invoice, these are the steps. If I'm going to create payroll, these are the steps, right? So I have these little checklists. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I make sure I have this? Did I make sure I have this? Right? So that works for me, but not everybody's like that. Some people just remember whatever. The older I'm getting, I'm noticing like I'm grateful for my checklists, right? Because there's just so much going on. And I don't mean older as in age, but as the CEO of a company, there's so much stuff. It's not just my own work that I have to pay attention to and make sure I know enough about, but I also have to take care of other people, make sure that they're able to do their job, right? So I have to know enough to get them going on their job. And what happens when an employee quits? Or what happens when an employee is sick, but that still has to get done? What if your virtual assistant got sick or quits on you, decides not to do that job anymore, right? Your web developer, all of those things, you're kind of like stuck, right? You're like, right? And then you kind of like, you're frozen and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start, right? So having checklists of other people's jobs, that's what in the business world, right? In the corporate world, they're called SOPs, right? Standing operating procedures. But it's much more than that. When you have the checklist of all the things that you can do, you can put those in your SOPs, but a lot of times they're not in there. So what are those processes? So just in case, you got to cover it because somebody's sick. Look, if nothing else, the COVID incident, that proved that, like, people weren't showing up, people were sick, people were, caught that they couldn't do the work anymore, right? So you had to do that in order to stay in business. So having checklists is not a bad thing. And I don't want to hear excuses. Well, Kimberly, I have ADHD, or I am ADD, or Kimberly, I'm, OCD or whatever. It's like, great, make a checklist. Okay, don't use that as your crutch to not doing what is necessary for you to grow the business that you say that you want. And I'm just being real. I have worked, some of my favorite clients have been ADD clients who never had a checklist. And we sat down and we go, okay, what do you want to accomplish? How do you want to accomplish it? When do you want to accomplish it by? Okay, great. Here's your first checklist. And they got more things done because they were willing to step out of their belief that having a checklist was conformity, or negative, or I just can't do them. We all can do them if you make it to fit you. Look, on my cell phone, I have notes, and before I travel, like, I'm like, oh, I want to pack this, and I want to pack this, and I want to pack this. And some people have these fabulous packing lists. Okay, well, every time I go someplace, it's a little bit different. So the same packing list doesn't work for me. So right in my little notes, I just say, okay, trip XYZ, here's everything I need to take. And then I just double check it to make sure, because occasionally I get distracted. I get distracted by my dogs, by my husband, by my kids, by my grandkids, like by my business. I get distracted just like everybody else does, right? So I just go back and I go, okay, check, 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 check. Yep, got all these. Oops, I forgot that one, right? I needed an extension cord, whatever that is, right? So you could do it as simple as putting it in your phone. You can have checklists. Now we go, on an annual camping trip, and every year it's the same time of year. It's mostly the same stuff, and it's a lot of work. And so we have an annual packing list for, camping. And I have shared that with people who, for the first time, are coming to join us, because we invite other people to join us. I'm like, here's our packing list. Like you can make it do whatever your own, but here's all the things that we bring, right? And then I add things to it for that month, for that year. I'll cross things off, but I print that baby out and I just go through it and make sure. And I go, oh, consciously decide whether or not I'm going to do it. See, you have to make it so that it works for you. So I have a combination. The most effective way is to have combinations based on what is happening and what you're doing. What's the, do you intend to share it with other people? Do you not intend to share it with other people? So designing an effective checklist is designing what works for you. And it doesn't have to be hard. You can create a Word document. You can create an Excel document. You can just put it on a notepad. You can just, like I said, I put it in my notes in my phone, which go onto my iPad, things like that. So making an effective list, it has to work for you. That's the most important key. So, you have to decide how you want to structure it for you. Some people structure it chronologically, like this has to be done first thing in the morning and this can be done in the afternoon. So we go chronologically, or just go logically. Like these are the things that need to get done before I can get this done, right? So you have to decide what kind of structure that you want to have. You got to make it simple for you, right? Again, it needs to be understood by you. It needs to be understood by, if you're sharing it with somebody, then you have to keep that into account as well, because it has to be able to be understood by them. So don't just make a shorthand, for example, checklist. We had a gal here, she used to do shorthand and she would make these checklists and they would all be shorthand. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Right? And she go, oh, well, it means this. And I was like, okay, because I didn't know shorthand. Right. So it has to be able to be understood by other users, other people who are you sharing with, but it has to be understood by you as well. They have to clarify the objective. What is the objective? Well, I want to get this done, right? I need to make this call, right? I need to turn this in by this date. Then create it, right? And it's there to provide help and guidance for you, right? To help you stay focused, get on track, stay on track with your goals, what it is that you want to implement in your business, all of those important things. And it has to, one of the things about checklists sometimes is you have something on your checklist and you're going, okay, yep. Oh, wait. In order for me to get this done, I need to talk to so-and-so. So now I got to add that to my talk to so-and-so, right? And then in order to have this completed, I need to complete XYZ. So I put that on the list as well, complete XYZ, right? Because you're going to have to refine it based on what's necessary. Look, you can take anything that you put on your to-do list and break it down into hunks, chunks, bites, and nibbles is what I say, right? Make it easy to do. So if it's a big hunk and it feels overwhelming, then break it down to a chunk, break it down to a nibble, break it down to a daily step that you can do. I have different things that have to be accomplished per month, right? I have things that need to be accomplished per week. I have things that need to be accomplished per day. So I have different checklists based on those things. Right? You can keep it in a binder. You can keep it in a notebook. You can keep it all online. You can keep it in your phone, whatever is most effective for you. Okay. If it's in my phone and I print it out and put it in my binder, boom, done. That's what works for me. Okay. But you have to decide what are those things that work for you. So you have to develop a strategic way of creating a checklist or creating a to-do list so that it works for you. Right. And then if it's not you doing it, then who are you assigning accountability to, right? Who are you signing it over to? And when are you going to follow up with that person, right? So there's lots of different things. You might need checklists for projects that you're doing to make sure that you don't miss anything. Maybe your client, if you're working in coaching and your client needs a checklist, how can you create a checklist system that maybe you don't use a lot of checklists, but you could serve your client because they need a checklist because that's important to them. Right. And if you don't understand it, and if you don't understand the psychology behind it or the physiological, benefits of it, then, how are you going to help your client? So, it helps you just to check in and see. It also prevents you from making mistakes, right? Leaving something out, right? Like I talked about, it creates organization. Well, if you're disorganized, it's likely you're going to forget something. You're not going to make it happen. Somebody's going to be disappointed, or maybe you're the one who's disappointed, right? So what if you created a checklist so that you could release that disappointment for your own personal self, right? Release that, oh, I forgot to do that for my client and now I'm losing trust with them, right? Create the way so that it works for you and everybody else around you. If you find that you're skipping or missing or forgetting or doing all of that, start creating some checklists and see if that improves your skill set, improves your client relationships, improves the trust and quality of the people that you talk to. I know people, there's people in my life who, like, I can ask them something and they tell me they're going to get it done. And guess what? They never do. Right. So I can trust them to be who they are, forgetful and unreliable. I can love them, but they're forgetful and they're unreliable. And then there's some people that are like so completely reliable because they say, hold on, let me put that on my calendar. Hold on, let me, put that on my to-do list. Hold on, let me make sure that I have that in as one of my priorities, because then they're consistent, they're reliable, and you get everything that you need done. They say, if you want something to do, give it to the busy person. Well, that busy person has a checklist. Okay. They have a way to do it, right? So, just understand that, really to implement it is to just get on it. Do one thing at a time, make a to-do list of 2 things, make a like, this is what I'm going to get done between now and noon, right? Okay, this is what I'm going to get done between noon and 8 p.m. Whatever works for you, right? Stop trying to wing it in business. Wing it will only get you so far, right? When I stopped winging it is when I really, really got, effective business results. Look, I couldn't have 75 employees and multi-million-dollar budgets that I'm working with and everything else within my corporation if I were just winging it all the time. It would not work. Okay. On a weekly basis, I have got to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. What do you need to do on a weekly basis? What is it? Right? What do you need to do on a daily basis, on a monthly basis? Maybe try something new this time. If you're not a checklist person, that's okay. Maybe try it for a week. Try it for a month. See if it works for you. And if it doesn't, okay, at least you tried it, right? Okay, well, I hope you got some kind of takeaway from today's topic here on, going beyond the to-do list, getting into the checklist, what's the importance of it, why it's important, and how you can create your own checklists for you so that it's effective for you. And, if there was something that you really enjoyed, put it down below. Let me know. Kimberly, that was a great tip. I'm going to give that a try. I'd love to hear the feedback. All right, well, I hope you all have a great, amazing day. I look forward to seeing you again next week. All right, bye-bye.